Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video for Influence, the brand new space MMO economic simulator being developed by Unstoppable Games. Today I'm going to be continuing my series of getting my operation set up. We're going to look at using an extractor to get a core sample turned into an actual extractor. We're going to look at what a refinery does, and we're going to briefly touch again on things like feeding crew, changing permissions to your different buildings, and then expanding outwards for there. Fairly short one today, just because there's quite a few timers I need to get set off and other ones that I need to sort of get started, but do stay tuned for more stuff coming very soon, as I am going to be hiring a load of new crews and getting some other bits and pieces done in the meantime whilst that extraction goes on, because spoiler alert, it's a long process, so please make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on that. Otherwise, let's jump straight in, shall we? First of all, I just want to point out that they've just done this new update that actually changes the little hexagon icons that we had before, not just into coloured variants, but now into actual symbols that showcase what the new lots are as well. Like here you can clearly see these warehouses, we have extractors, and I've just finished constructing a refinery. I really like this update, it makes it really nice and visual to see what's going on here. Very, very cool. So yeah, having now finished our extractor and having done the core sample in last video, we're now going to analyze that core sample. So we click on this, we can see here we have the water, 93% lot abundance, there's the core drill that we used for it. We are now going to actually analyze this sample and see what comes from it. This will give us information that we're then going to use in order to actually extract resources, and then start reprocessing those into new materials as required. And there we go, what we can see here is a 5,000 ton water deposit. That's pretty cool. We can go into details and see a bit more about what's going on here with the minimum and maximum as we saw before, but we don't need to worry about that. We now have that core sample, we can come down here to extract resource. From here, you see that we have that water deposit that we had previously. If you had bought, for example, a different core sample, you can actually use those and have them sent out from the market, or you can send out other core samples and move them across as well in this way. But we've got that water deposit, we can then go to our inventory and drop that off in a repository. This will then extract this. You can see this is going to take a whopping 8 days to extract. That's with 2 miners on the crew. None of my miners have the speed to extraction, so this is going to take quite a bit of time to do. Obviously, we want to get that set up and started sooner rather than later. There we go, so if we confirm that, you can now see we are starting to process that water extraction. It's going to take a while, but we should get a decent amount of water that we can then either use ourselves or send to market. So with that extractor now running, we can, I think, possibly even look at getting another core sample of one of the other materials. So we're going to get a core drill, and we are going to start up another core sample, this time on apatite, to see how much we can get from that. And if we have a look down here, we could possibly do the same here. Obviously, this is going to be a busy crew at this point, but we could have both of these running. Then we can come across to this particular refinery, and we can start looking at the different processes that we want to actually achieve different things. Now, even though I can't do this yet because of all the other stuff going on, this is a really important point that we can actually have a look at how to make some of the materials that we might want to be selling on the market. So again, just to showcase how to find that, once you've built a refinery, we come down here to Refine Material and go to Select a Process. Here on the right-hand side, you can see all of the different bits and pieces that you want. So if you're thinking, oh, actually, some of the stuff that I was building had certain requirements, right? We can look at different bits down the right-hand side here and figure out what we might need in order to construct those materials. This is going to be really useful for us in figuring out what we actually want to extract and where we want to put it. So for example, if you really wanted to get iron, then of course we just look for tainite. And that is going to be as simple as that. You can also look at materials on the left-hand side here and think, right, I've got these materials, what can I turn them into? So for example, carbon monoxide and oxygen allows us to create carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide we can then turn into carbon monoxide and oxygen. Of course, it's chemical reactions, we can do both in both different directions. Up here, if, for example, we wanted polyacrylonitrile, I will one day be able to say that, then we're going to need sulfur dioxide and acrylonitrile. We can put those two together, and then with this, we can then make those sheets that we've used in building elsewhere. It's a great way just to figure out what kind of materials you can make with the stuff you have. At this point, you'll need an input inventory and an output inventory. As you can see, we don't actually have anything selected yet, because I know I don't have any of these materials really at the point where any of them are remotely useful. But let's just imagine for a moment that we had some beryllium carbonate. Let's go to Done on that. Under Select Inventory, you can then pick which of your different warehouses happens to have that in it, and then which warehouse you then want it to go to when it's done. And again, you'd go down to Crew Busy, and it will tell you all the details here as to what you want to make. And you choose which one you want to be your primary, on the understanding that you will get like reduction in the other one as well. You can choose this to maximum, how long you want it to run for. We can run this for different lengths of time as well. Obviously, you'll get different amounts output down here, as you can see regarding that, but it will obviously tell you if that's going to be over capacity as well, which is a kind of important point. You don't want to go all the way up here and find that you can't even put it in there, so you've just wasted a load. You kind of find a nice middle point that is going to allow you to do that. It's important as well, we have briefly touched on this, but if you were to actually go to one of your warehouses or one of your other different like buildings here, on the right hand side you can look for this key icon. This will allow you to update the name and update the permissions. Now, updating the name just means that you can find it easier on that list. Updating the permissions, you can actually then go to your allow list, and you can add in different crews. So here you can see I've added Prospect Alpha to both the add products and remove products on the allow list. You just literally type in the name of the crew you want, you add it in, double check this, like try and remember the crew ID as well. If you need to double check the crew ID, you come into my crews and you can have a look through the information here by going into that crew, and it'll actually have the ID number at the top left. So for example, my refinery crew, if I then click into these guys here, there's the crew ID up there, 3626. So I grabbed a pen and paper and I wrote down 3626, and vice versa for the other crews, and then put it on the allow list. You can just type in 3626 into there, for example. It's not really going to come up because I'm already on that crew, but you can use it that way to find your crew and add them to your allow lists. This just means that those crews can actually use the same thing. If, like me, you've got multiple different crews that you're working with, and I do want to add some more crews, you need to update the permissions. Otherwise, this warehouse is only going to be usable by the crew that created the warehouse. That's not ideal. And yes, you can, do inventory management between your warehouses as well. You might decide that you have a warehouse purely for construction materials, and then you have a separate warehouse purely for your refinery materials. And of course, you can then use the send to function down here, where you pick what you want to take out of that and where you want to put it to. So I could decide I want to move all of my cement to a different repository, so that A101 to A102, and send off all of that there, and it'll do a transfer volume. It just allows you to help sort your inventory and what is going to go where. Now here, ultimately, that kind of brings us to the point where I need to pause, and we're going to have to see what goes on with this. It's going to take us a while to get there. I do apologize that I'm bunged up with a head cold at the moment. That probably sounded really gross, but you can see that core sample is going to take us a couple of hours to get that new one for Appetite on here. And if I jump back to my previous crew, the Prospect Alpha crew, you can see that we have that water extraction is going to take another 8 days. That's a long time for them to get their stuff together. And if we're worrying about this just before we finish this video and wait for all that extraction to happen, this is just where, when I started off doing these videos, I kind of put the plans down for a building first and then forgot to lease the land. And you're supposed to lease the land, then put the plans down and move all the stuff, right? This is now ultimately a vulnerable thing. So what I can do is go into this and I can just unplan the building site is probably the best way to do that, just to clear that up and move it off. You can change ownership around and make sure that it is, as required. But for me, I don't need 3 warehouses at this point in time. I may build more later. I'll probably hire some other crews for that as well. It's also worth noting, just because some people have mentioned it in the comment section, the 12 million sway that I have up here, obviously you won't start with 12 million sway. This is because I'm making content for the game. I have been very kindly supplied a load of sway by the developers just to showcase the game in action and kind of what's going on. So while this crew's busy, let's have a look. I'm going to bring my original crew down now, and I think we might get another extractor built. Should probably also have some food sent to them at some point. Oh, they don't have the ability to take. I need to sort that. 3623. So there we are. We've now updated the allow list there for crew 3623. If we go to this one as well, 3623, make sure that we are allowing both them to take and to add. It's important that we do both. Get that all sorted. Now, if I go back to that crew 3623, get the right crew, I should be able to go to food, and there's the repository with the food in, now available to send that across. Perfect. Nice and simple. All sorted. And that's how to change your permissions. Anyway, folks, that's about it for today. It's going to take us a bit of time to get that extraction all going, and then to start the refinery process. I'm going to build some other bits and pieces around here in the meantime. Do stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Hit like, drop a comment down below. Subscribe for more as well. Plenty more influence content on the way. A lot more stuff I want to get going and showcasing on here. We've got a couple of other buildings that I want to get sorted as well and put down. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll see how we do.